Alright guys, Touch Grubby back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Monday so far. Today we're going to go over some reaction to the Call of Duty World League Championships going on right now. Of course, day 5 it finished off yesterday. Remarkable day as we discussed in the video that I made last night. Today they're going to talk about some reaction from that, mainly from Slasher, regarding how his team has fared so far this season, how he feels like he's been lied to by the CDL and not put in the best position to, make a deep run at champs by starting in the winners bracket, which he believes would have been possible if they had started on LAN. Clearly looked much better this weekend since moving to the Complexity headquarters in Texas to play in an environment when they're not at a significant online disadvantage, as we will discuss in coming minutes here. Of course, a big question going into next season as well, with LAN events certainly not an absolute guarantee. Like, if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Intrigued to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section, of course. This one then from Pristini, proving people wrong is my favourite thing to do. For the record, I'm still tight about my performance yesterday. Even today, it could have been better. I'm going to work on it, but for now, I want to thank everyone who supported, even when I had my worst day of Call of Duty ever. That no one's denying that this series against FaZe with a 0.5 AKD was a good series, right? Like, obviously, he knows better than anyone that he underperformed in that series, but he came out swinging yesterday when it mattered. I mean, 2 massive hardpoint performances from him against the Optic Gaming Los Angeles squad. I mean, like, he proved he's a world champion for a reason. We'll have to see how if he manages to continue that form against the London Royal Ravens next weekend. At the championship weekends, we're going to look through the schedule as well right at the end of this video. Also, this from Arcees as well, just saying how, he didn't have his best weekend here. Scrims for the next week are going to be hard, given that who do you play right now, right? I imagine that the Huntsmen decide to play against FaZe and the Dallas Empire, the two teams that are playing in the upper side. Probably London will do the same, and then FaZe and Dallas will probably scrim against, Huntsmen and the London Royal Ravens, because they're on opposite sides of the bracket right now, because of course you don't want to scrim against the team that you're going to play next weekend, right, and give away any potential strats or hints or what you're playing at, and at least allow them to get comfortable with your gameplay. Not ideal. We've had this discussion over the last few days as well. I thought this was an interesting bit of drama as well, because this came out from Temp, of course, a while ago, and Scraps talked about it with Mac. Mac supposedly was going at Dylan, saying he wasn't very good or whatever, and as Scraps then replied to Temp here, he's an absolute lettuce, ain't no young shooter. We talked about this at the time with Mac, and a bit of drama went back and forth there, and of course, yesterday, Shawnee had to say in the post-match interview after they defeated the New York Subliners, saying like, people were talking trash, and that was a good series win, like, we kind of shut them up. I hope they learned their lesson, is what Shawnee said in that one, and I just thought this was funny conclusion really to the kind of London versus New York storyline that we've had the whole season, right? Zero, of course, leaving that team earlier in the season, getting kicked off the squad, going to London, now defeating them in a massive series here, and they went on, of course, to have a great result against Toronto later in the day as well. This then is what Slasher had to say on the Optic Gaming Los Angeles team the whole season. They didn't have the best season. He was talking on the podcast most recently. Our early season, there was discussions that there was going to be an entire, a major meta-shifting update to the game. They were going to change spawns, they were going to change bomb locations. All of this stuff was promised, or at least mentioned, by the Infinity Ward guys, and therefore a lot of teams, especially LAG, and supposedly LAG weren't even scrimming the game. Optic Gaming also weren't taking practice particularly seriously, because they imagined things were going to improve drastically after this update that never came. Therefore, they had a bad start to the season. They did try and bring things together a little bit there. The Chino situation in, of course, Dashy, subbed out of the team and all this kind of stuff that happened, which wasn't ideal for the Optic Gaming Los Angeles squad, especially what they were looking at right at the start of the season with such a talented team on paper, in theory. Things went awry. I mean, talks of TJ and when they were trying Chino and stuff, he didn't feel confident in that this squad was going to be particularly good. And, from a player like Slasher and a player like Kenny and a player like TJ and what they've done in the past, to end up in a situation where your team were 2 amateurs at the end of the game, and that's actually where you got your best performances and best results. I mean, that's just a surprise, right? The online arena definitely has something to say about that. But as Slasher says, I mean, this is what he thinks on the matter. GG's to Florida and Chicago. For the first time in my career, I am content with top 5/6. And if you know me as a competitor, that is saying a lot, and that's absolutely true. We weren't given a fair chance to compete and just got thrown into the losers for BS reasons. Of course, they came 9th in the Pro League, I believe. They were a couple of series wins away from making it out in top 8. They were pretty close. They almost made it, but Toronto just about pipped them at the post, to be honest, right at the end of the season for OGLA. They had a solid one. I mean, let's look at their results right here. I mean, over the course of it, it wasn't great at all. The end was somewhat better. As you can see, they did come second at Florida, where they lost to Atlanta in the finals with Chino. Then they made this most recent change with Dashy out of the team, Chino out of the team, Hollow and Draza in. They looked somewhat better. I mean, they lost twice to Florida in this one, which was difficult. Then they did come top 4. And then, of course, the most recent event, they win 3 series in a row, effectively not losing a map, right? Of course, they looked relatively solid since they added Hollow and Draza, and they looked like a good enough team to be in the top 8, but of course, early season performances did not favour them by any means, trying to ramp up in the terms of the league table. However, the key discussion point here has been the fact that they were playing from California and the disadvantage that has in terms of server locations. This is something which has affected Paris as well. The fact that where the servers are based that you can play on, teams get to veto one server, but the problem is if you're in California, there's no real servers near you that you get to veto. I mean, effectively the Texas team, maybe there is a Cali server, but it's going to get vetoed regardless, and therefore you're going to be playing on a server which is on the other side of the country. And well, it's been a massive issue, to be honest, with players playing out of Texas or playing out of, well, Texas having a significant advantage over teams that are not, and it has been seen as a significant disadvantage to play from California. We've seen that with Paris when they played the Dallas Empire, we've seen that with Formal, I suppose, on Optic, on the Chicago team, and now, of course, on Optic Gaming Los Angeles right here. So, yeah, as Slasher says, this tournament, we literally showed it. We were different players outside of California. It'll forever be a question how good we could have been if we had a fair chance, as he describes. So he says the fact that we were in Cali the whole season, and he talks about exactly what the issues were with why he didn't move to Texas sooner, because when they did, they looked so much better, right? Like Kenny's dropping a 1.4, the kind of numbers you would expect to see from him, or at least the kind of performances in terms of the eye test that you would expect to see from him and Slasher in a LAN environment. And when you're on a relatively low ping game, it's not too far distant, right? But when you've got issues when people are playing from Cali, then all of a sudden you're not really playing in a fair LAN environment like you would see normally. When the pings are very low, it's not too much different, as we kind of saw in yesterday's series. And Optic Gaming clearly much improved when they were all on this Texas host in the Complexity headquarters before they played Chicago. And I mean, they definitely could have won that series against Chicago, right? Like, it was so close. Game 5, round 11, 1v1. Doesn't get any closer than that, to be honest. And maybe if you iterate that series 100 times, Optic win like 40, 45 times or something like that. It could have been their day. Wasn't this time, but clearly much improved as a squad, especially with this new situation where they're playing on Texas. And as Slasher goes on to say, if they had the opportunity to play on that the entire season, and some of the issues that they had in terms of communication with the league, then that could have also been a possibility as well. As he describes right here, as Saint says, I always wonder what could have happened if this year stayed on LAN. Of course, on the Minnesota team, that they lost 10 series back to back, etc., for the end of the season. So it wasn't great for them since they went online. And as Slasher says, I would have bet my bank account if this season played out on LAN, I would have been a top 8 seed. Literal different game. I've been one of the favorites going into the past 6 champs. And well, doesn't happen this time. To be honest, they could have almost made the run. Like, you know, there's a world in which they beat Chicago, they beat London, and, you know, who knows from there. Like, if they're beating those teams, they can certainly take down the loser of Dallas Empire, Atlanta FaZe for sure. We then get this one as well, as he says, why would I up and move during a pandemic when the league is telling me they are adding servers to make it fair? So it's Slash is saying that there were discussions from the league that they were going to be adding additional servers to make it more beneficial, or at least less disadvantageous, to be living in California. Other servers that other teams can veto, meaning that you're not just playing on a server halfway across the country, which is advantageous for the other team. I think they only had like 5 servers or something like that, and Slasher was even mentioning that they have like Texas 1 and Texas 2 as servers, rather than having a server up in like Georgia or something, or wherever might be more feasible for players like, well, players that live in California, such as Slasher and the Optic Gaming Los Angeles squad. However, that didn't happen. I was lied to, and almost getting a place set up in a week for 4 months is like impossible. I'm just not making up excuses or spewing BS. I am literally speaking facts, says Slasher. So saying that effectively the league lied to him about not having the servers, well, not setting up the servers that they said they were going to set up. And as a result of that, we now have a situation where they couldn't move earlier, and they just moved for champs. And when they did move, it almost looks so much better for them, right? So interesting questions going into next season. I highly doubt these guys are going to be playing from California again, but why wasn't the league able to do this, right? With all this investment, with all this backing, you would expect them to be able to put in these additional servers that the players have been talking about for months and needed to get over the line. Slasher says here it was a massive issue for the Optic Gaming Los Angeles squad, massive issue also for squads like Paris Legion, which I suppose haven't been so vocal about this stuff, but still a major concern, I believe. And not unfounded at all, given how much better they looked when they were on, I suppose, a fair internet connection, as Slasher would describe. Tweet your thoughts on this one down in the comment section below, though. Of course, they do end up finishing top 6 of the World Championship. All things considered, this is an impressive result, right? Given you know, everything that happened, starting from losers, beating LAG in that Game 5 with the 2 lag outs. I mean, what a disaster that was, having to bring Dashy in. I mean, that was absolute chaos. They pocket, though, $300,000. If they'd have made it any further, they could have had more. This is the prize pool for next weekend, if you guys aren't fully familiar with it. And let's then go over the schedule for next weekend's event, just to make this clear in everyone's mind what we prepare for next time around. We've got the Call of Duty League like City Circuit, semi-final and finals. Not exactly sure what's going on there, but that starts on this time, as you can see on screen. Then next Saturday, Chicago Huntsmen, Royal Ravens. That's that losers bracket matchup. I mean, that's going to be a pretty exciting one. These teams have gone back and forth a couple of times here. Huntsmen should be favourites coming in in theory, but Ravens have looked quite good, and, you know, maybe Huntsman a little bit inconsistent. If Pristini's performing, though, certainly Huntsman should be favourites in this one. Then, just after that, you've got the winners' final matchup. Typically, this has determined the winner of the entire tournament, as we discussed yesterday. The fact that when you go from winners' finals to grand finals in a traditional CWL event, it's very, very difficult to beat you, because you have to beat 2 best-of-5s against that team. Not the case this time, however. The winner of this will then go on to the grand finals. Of course, the championship match, as they are describing it, only on the Sunday. The loser will go down to face the winner of Huntsman versus the Royal Ravens, and then the winner of that rematches, or potentially rematches, if it's, you know, Dallas Empire or Atlanta FaZe playing again, or you know, a team that can make a loser's run, like Chicago or Royal Ravens. Still very possible. This is why we love double elimination, to be honest. Then we've got on Sunday only one match, the championship match, 9 p.m. over here, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Set your alarms, because yeah, this is going to be a fantastic one. As we've mentioned, it's a best of 9 matchup. The team from winners gets a 1-0 advantage, so should be a big series. Hopefully it goes the distance and we get a fantastic conclusion to the Call of Duty League season, which has of course been plagued with some issues, but you know, whatever. If it finishes out on a positive note, as it seems to have done so far, the Call of Duty World Championships, you know, I'll be pretty happy. Thank you for watching as always. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you next time.